Something fundamental is shifting in modern dating, and if you're a man in your 50 seconds, you've probably already felt it. Women under 30, the very same demographic that, 10 years ago, wouldn't have looked at you twice, are suddenly initiating contact. They are liking you on apps, messaging first, and asking to meet. And if you're being completely honest, your first reaction is a mix of confusion and suspicion. Because the last time you tried to date someone significantly younger, the rejection was swift and brutal. You're too old. That's creepy. I need someone my own age. So, what changed? In you, practically nothing. You didn't suddenly become a cover model. You didn't invent an elixir of youth or regain the appearance of a 30-year-old. If anything, there's more grey hair. It's thinning on top, and your waistline might be a bit wider. Yet, she is choosing you. And not because she's lowered her standards, not out of desperation, not because of mythical daddy issues, and certainly not because she's hunting for a sponsor. She is choosing you for a reason society stubbornly refuses to acknowledge. The men of her own generation have failed catastrophically in becoming the kind of men with whom one can build a real life. And you, simply by surviving to your age and figuring out your own demons, offer something her peers simply do not possess. This isn't manipulation, it's not a cunning strategy, and it's not predatory. This is the point where psychology, biology, and sociology collide in such a way that relationships with a large age gap are becoming not just a norm, but a necessity. And the true reason for her attraction to you is not what anyone assumes. Let's start with your experience, because this context is important. Remember yourself at 35 or 40, perhaps post-divorce. You probably tried dating younger women. Not 20-year-old girls, but fully adult women of 28 or 30. They seemed more vibrant, energetic, and less jaded than women your own age. But the reception was ice cold. They looked at you like you were delusional. The 15-20-year age gap that seems reasonable now felt like an uncrossable chasm back then. She didn't want a man with baggage. She wanted a peer, a guy who shared her rhythm of life, whose biography was still unwritten. You didn't get bitter. You understood. You moved on and returned to your league. You learned the lesson. Young women aren't interested in older men. That's a Hollywood myth. And now, when a 29-year-old woman invites you for coffee, your brain spins. Is this a scam? Does she need money? What's the catch? You need to understand the main thing. There is no catch. A complete transformation of the dating landscape has occurred in the last 10-15 years. The woman who rejected you when she was 22 is now 29, and she has collided with a reality you survived decades ago. She has realized that the overwhelming majority of men her age are absolutely unprepared for adult life. When you were 28, you probably weren't perfect either. You were still maturing, making mistakes, but you had time and social pressure pushing you to grow up. You had role models, mentors, an understanding of what it meant to be a man. The 2 8-year-old guys she dates today don't have that. They were raised in a completely different environment, and many of them never managed to make the transition into adulthood, and she learned this the hard way. So, looking at you, a man who has already walked that path, survived crises and losses, and knows who he is, she doesn't see an old man. She sees the first man in years whose life is actually under control. Think about what she's been through with men of her generation. She's dated the 9-year-old who still lives with roommates or parents, can't plan anything beyond Friday, and spends 4 hours playing video games every night. Not because he's unwinding after hard work, but because he genuinely sees no problem with that lifestyle. She's dated the visionary, who talks endlessly about his potential, the business he's about to launch, the life he's going to build, but takes 0 steps for years. It's all fantasy without execution, and she is tired of believing in a future that never arrives. Furthermore, she is exhausted by relationships with emotionally fragile men who perceive any serious conversation as a personal insult and panic at the word responsibility. She is sick of being not just a girlfriend, but simultaneously a mother, a therapist, and a life coach For a person who believes love should be easy and require no effort. She is fed up with guys who vanish at the first sign of difficulty because no one taught them to take a hit and solve problems rather than run from them. In the end, instead of a reliable shoulder, she has leaned on a void for years, constantly guessing if her partner will decide to find himself again tomorrow. It is this traumatic experience that makes her view your maturity not as boredom, but as a long-awaited harbor where she can finally exhale and feel safe. She has been through relationships with emotionally immature guys who shut down during the slightest conflict, treat every disagreement as a personal attack, and consider discussing feelings a sign of weakness. She has seen the perpetual adolescents who want the relationship to be fun and easy 24/7 and bail the moment things get hard. Guys who have never sacrificed anything, never compromised, and never placed someone else's needs on the same level as their own. And, of course, she has met those who, at 29, are still finding themselves, changing careers, hobbies, and beliefs like gloves. That's fine at 23, but exhausting at 29 when you are looking for a partner who knows who he is. This isn't an attack on young men, it's an observation of a fact. An entire generation has been failed by the culture of their upbringing. They weren't taught how to be men. They were told that traditional masculinity is toxic, ambition is greed, and self-discipline is violence against the self. They were raised in conditions of extended adolescence. The result? Many reach 30 without ever developing the characteristics necessary for long-term partnership. Emotional stability, financial responsibility, conflict resolution skills, and the capacity to care for another. She spent her 20 seconds hoping one of them would grow up. She is tired of being the adult in the couple, tired of managing his emotions and mothering a bearded child. So when she meets you, someone who has already built a career, raised kids, survived divorce and loss, she feels something she hasn't felt in years: relief. You are not a project that needs work. You are not potential. You are a finished product, and that is exactly what she needs. So what do you have that guys half your age don't? Experience? Yes, but not the kind people usually talk about, not the number of books read or countries visited, but the kind of experience that forges character. You have been through hell and came back. You know the cost of mistakes. You have felt genuine regret. You have had to apologize and stand by your word. This creates depth. It teaches you that life is unfair, but you have to keep showing up. Instead of panicking or looking for someone to blame, you simply take control of the situation and do what needs to be done. She sees that where a young guy would create drama or fall into a depression, you maintain an icy calm because you know hysteria never solves problems. This ability to remain unshakable when things go wrong acts magnetically on her, because she is used to men who are derailed by the slightest trifle. You give her a sense of support, not through words, but through your reactions to stress, showing that next to you, she doesn't have to fear tomorrow. It is this inner strength, forged by years of overcoming difficulties, that transforms you in her eyes from just an older man into an indestructible rock behind which she finally feels safe. When she has a bad day, you don't spiral into panic, you don't try to clumsily fix everything, and you don't make it about yourself. You give her space to process her emotions because you know emotions are not a fire, they don't need to be extinguished. When she is angry, you can have a dialogue without melting down into a tantrum because you've had thousands of difficult conversations in your life, and you know an argument isn't the end of the relationship. You have emotional regulation, not the suppression of feelings, but the wisdom that comes with years. You are financially stable. You might not be a millionaire, but you aren't panicking about rent. You understand how money works. You aren't asking her to fund your dreams or support you while you search for your calling. And perhaps most importantly, you know who you are. You aren't experimenting with your personality. You don't wake up with the thought of completely reinventing your life tomorrow morning. You are a known quantity, and that gives her a sense of stability she has never experienced with peers. You aren't competing with her. You don't feel threatened if she is successful. You are already established, so you can genuinely celebrate her wins without feeling diminished. You know how to listen, not to reply or win a debate, but to understand. For a woman who has spent years dating men devoid of these qualities, you look like a miracle. Now, let's talk about biology, because this matters, even if she never admits it out loud. Women are biologically wired to seek partners capable of providing safety and resources. This isn't gold digging. It is an evolutionary mechanism for the survival of offspring that has formed over millennia. This instinct doesn't disappear in the age of iPhones. At 22, this voice is drowned out by hormones, a thirst for adventure, and a guy's social status in the peer group. She can afford to date the broke musician for the thrill. But by 28-30, a switch flips. Her brain starts running different calculations, especially if she is subconsciously thinking about children. Selection criteria change. She starts evaluating men not on the fun scale, but on the reliability scale. And an older man is a signal of reliability. You have proven you can survive. You have resources. You are not a lottery ticket. You are a secure investment. Furthermore, there is the aspect of attachment. For peers, she often becomes a training ground. For serious relationships, they don't know how to create a deep emotional bond. You passed that stage long ago. You have loved, you have lost, you know how to build intimacy. From an evolutionary perspective, you are a safer bet. The period when men are prone to maximum risk, cheating, and inconsistency is behind you. You have sown your wild oats. Unlike a young guy who is constantly scanning the horizon for a better option out of fear of missing out on his youth, you value the depth of connection over the thrill of the hunt. You understand that a relationship is not a prison limiting freedom, but a foundation upon which life is built. And this wisdom comes only after you have seen the emptiness of casual encounters. She doesn't need to fear that you will suddenly wake up in a midlife crisis and decide to destroy everything for new sensations, because you have already lived that chapter and closed it with peace of mind. This predictability makes you incredibly attractive to a woman who is tired of guessing if her partner will be there tomorrow or trade her for the next experiment. For her, your colorful past isn't heavy baggage. It's a guarantee that you are ready to be here and now, offering the conscious devotion that 2 9-year-olds simply haven't had time to learn. And here is the part that will make many uncomfortable. Women in their late 20s are at the peak of understanding what they actually need. The period of experimentation is over. She wants something real with someone capable of giving it. You are not taking advantage of her naivety. She is a fully formed personality, making a conscious decision based on experience and biology. She is no longer looking for drama. She is looking for quality. And this is where you win against competitors who can only offer enthusiasm, but no substance. Let's get inside her head to understand her perspective. She is looking for a partner who matches her psychological development. By 29, women often outpace male peers in emotional intelligence by about 5 years. She has likely done therapy, read self-help books, and worked through her childhood traumas. She is emotionally literate. Her peers often don't even have the vocabulary to describe their feelings. With you, she can speak the same language. You, thanks to life experience or self-work, are capable of meeting her at this level of depth. For her, a relationship with a peer often turns into an exhausting, unpaid job of raising someone else's son. But with you, she can finally resign from that position and just be a loved woman. She needs someone who has a life and is living it right now, not in plans. You have a routine, friends, goals. You are not a blank slate. This is attractive because she doesn't need to build you. She doesn't need to be your psychologist or coach. She can just be a partner. You don't demand that she fill your inner void because you simply don't have one. It has long been filled with your own interests, achievements, and plans. She also needs someone who knows how to run an adult household, plan a vacation from A to Z, organize a dinner, handle bureaucratic issues. Men her age often continue living in dorm mode, well past 30. You know how the real world functions. You are a partner, not a dependent. She doesn't need to remind you to book a doctor's appointment or explain how to pay taxes because you mastered these basic survival skills before she even started school. She was looking for someone to stand beside her as an equal, not someone she has to drag along. But here it gets complicated for her. She knows why she chose you, but she also knows that the moment she announces this to the world, an avalanche of judgment will crash down on her. Friends will start asking, "Are you sure this isn't a daddy thing? What happens when he's 70? Family will suspect greed or manipulation. Social media and culture have instilled in everyone that a large age gap is always a power imbalance, that it's creepy. Society is somehow ready to forgive her for a relationship with a toxic, unfaithful, but young guy, yet an absolutely healthy relationship with an older man immediately arouses suspicion and criticism. So she often stays quiet. She doesn't post your photos, answers colleagues evasively, and introduces you to her circle carefully. She is forced to make excuses for a choice that makes her happy. The irony is that she cannot publicly speak the truth. I am dating him because men my age are infantile. That would sound arrogant, so she endures the social pressure in silence. However, let's be honest, this isn't a fairy tale, and there are real pitfalls here. The age gap creates real challenges. First, the difference in life stages. You might already be thinking about a quiet retirement, while she is at the peak of her career and social activity. You've done your clubbing. She might not be finished yet. If you expect her to instantly turn into a homebody, or she expects you to party like a 6-year-old, it will lead to disaster. Second, health. You are aging faster. The reality is that she will have to face the role of a caregiver earlier than she would with a peer. This must be acknowledged. Third, children. If she wants kids, and you have already raised yours, and categorically do not want to start over, this is a dead end. This is a question where compromise is impossible. And, of course, the cultural code. You remember a world without the internet. She grew up with a smartphone in her hand. Your music tastes, movie references, memes, all this might not align, creating moments of alienation. Sometimes you will have to be a patient translator from the language of her generation to yours and back. But if approached with humor, it is this difference that makes communication lively and unpredictable. These problems do not mean the relationship is doomed, but they require extreme honesty and adult dialogue from both sides. If you are not ready to discuss aging, children, and future plans, nothing will work. But if you are both mature enough, the age gap becomes just one characteristic of your relationship, not its definition. It is the willingness to openly discuss complex, sometimes scary things like caring for elderly parents, or the inevitability of the end that creates the very intimacy she lacked with guys living one day at a time. So, what does this mean for you? If you're a man in your 52nds and young women are showing interest in you, understand what is happening so you don't mess it up. Don't be that creepy guy. Don't pursue very young girls. Don't use your experience to manipulate. The women who suit you are those who have lived a bit, who choose you consciously. Remember that the line between a wise partner and a predator runs through respect for her autonomy. You are here to complement her life, not to try and reshape it to your pattern using your authority. Be honest. Immediately state your intentions regarding marriage and children. Don't waste her time pretending to be someone you aren't, just to keep her. Your ability to say a firm no or an honest "I don't know" attracts her far more than pathetic attempts to please, because for her, that is a sign of inner strength and backbone, not weakness. Don't make age the center of the universe. If all your conversations boil down to "I'm too old" or "you're so young," it gets exhausting. By constantly apologizing for your years, you only artificially focus her attention on the numbers, making her doubt a decision she was absolutely sure of. Focus on shared values and personal connection. Understand, this isn't charity. She isn't doing you a favor. She is choosing you because you are the best option. Treat her with respect, as an equal partner, not as a trophy you didn't deserve. Accept the fact that your grey hair and life scars are not defects to her, but a map of your history, proof that you survived and won, and this evokes deep, almost primal admiration in her. Enjoy it. If you have found someone who values your path, your personality, and chooses you over young competitors, this is rare and valuable. Don't sabotage it with your insecurity or by waiting for the catch. Ultimately, there are no losers in this union. You give her a sense of an unshakable home and support, and she returns to you the forgotten feeling of spring and novelty, making this exchange absolutely equal. The cultural narrative insists that this is wrong, that it is always predation or a mistake. But reality is more complex. Compatibility is not determined by the birth year in a passport. Sometimes a 29-year-old woman and a 5-6-year-old man suit each other far better than any other combination. This is a conscious choice of two adults. And if you find yourself in such a situation, stop doubting. Just be the man she saw in you, the stable, mature, emotionally competent partner. In a world where everyone tries to seem like someone else, your authenticity and calm stability become the most powerful aphrodisiac, because that is exactly what she needs, and that is why it works. If you want to understand not just what is happening in modern relationships, but why it is really happening beyond social stereotypes and convenient lies, you will like it here. We break down psychology, biology, and the hidden motives others prefer to stay silent about. Subscribe to Psycheria to see human nature as it is, not as people want to show it. See you in the next video.